Before the cold hum of a refrigerator filled our kitchens, food was never separate from time. Every ingredient existed under constant pressure. Meat, fish, milk, and vegetables began to decay almost the moment they were harvested. Cooking wasn't about comfort or taste. It was about control. About slowing decay just long enough to survive. People didn't cook when they wanted to. They cooked when conditions allowed it. Fire was the center of everything, but it was unreliable. Maintaining heat required fuel, attention, and time. Wood had to be gathered, dried, and rationed. Smoke filled living spaces, clung to walls, clothing, and lungs. The work of cooking was physically demanding long before the first bite was ever taken. Fresh food was a fleeting state. Once an animal was killed, its meat had to be processed immediately. To delay meant to lose. Fish began to spoil within hours. Milk turned quickly. Vegetables wilted, fermented, or rotted, all depending on the weather and where they were kept. Cooking wasn't a choice. It was an emergency response that began the moment food entered the household. There were no sealed, sterile kitchens. Food was prepared in open spaces shared with people, animals, and tools. Dirt floors absorbed spills. Insects swarmed. Smoke darkened ceilings. Cleanliness was a constant, difficult effort, not a given standard. Cooking happened in environments that actively worked against preservation. Heat was a form of preservation, but it was always temporary. Boiling killed immediate threats, but it didn't stop time. Roasted meat cooled and spoiled just as fast. Cooked food had to be eaten soon or transformed all over again. Leftovers were rare and always a risk. A meal was often the end of an ingredient's life, not the beginning of its storage. So how did they fight back against the clock? Salt replaced cold. It was expensive, limited, and carefully controlled. Salting meat or fish pulled moisture from the flesh, slowing decay, but completely changing its texture and taste. Salted food was survival food, not pleasure food. It lasted longer, but it demanded more work and patience before it could be eaten again. Drying was another defense. Food was sliced thin and exposed to sun, wind, or smoke. This removed the water, but it also made food hard, brittle, and difficult to chew. Rehydrating it required precious time and fuel. Dried food kept people alive through times of scarcity, but it was a constant, tough reminder of absence. Smoke wasn't used for flavor, but for protection. Hanging meat or fish above a fire coated its surface, discouraging insects and bacteria. The result was dark, dense food that carried the smell of the fire long after it was cooked. That same smoke entered lungs and eyes while preserving the next meal. Fermentation filled the gaps that refrigeration would one day erase. Vegetables were submerged, sealed, and left to transform. Milk became sour, then solid. Grain turned into bread or beer. These processes relied on a kind of controlled decay. People learned which rot was safe and which was deadly through generations of trial, error, and loss. Cooking schedules followed the environment, not a clock on the wall. Hot weather accelerated spoilage. Cold slowed it but didn't stop it. Rain ruined drying efforts. Humidity encouraged mold. Every single meal was shaped by the climate. Food preparation was a constant response to changing conditions, not a fixed routine. Hunger sharpened judgment. People learned to recognize smells, textures, and changes that we would completely ignore today. A wrong decision could mean sickness or even death. This was knowledge passed down through hard experience, not written instructions. Mistakes were remembered because they had consequences. Food storage existed, but it was fragile. Cellars, pits, and clay pots slowed spoilage, but they never prevented it. Rodents, insects, and damp air were constant threats. Stored food had to be checked often, handled carefully, and was never fully trusted. Because of all this, meals were smaller, simpler, and often repetitive. Variety increased risk, so familiar foods were safer. Cooking favored methods that reduced uncertainty. boiling, drying, salting, fermenting. Creativity was a luxury, limited by danger. This constant pressure shaped every part of daily life. It determined when people worked, when they rested, and when they gathered. Food demanded attention from the moment it entered the home until it was consumed. There was no pause, no cold silence slowing decay in the background, but the danger didn't end once the food was cooked. It only changed form. A finished meal had a very narrow window of safety, sometimes just hours. In warm weather, a cooked dinner could turn dangerous before the next sunrise. People learned not to trust appearance alone. A meal could look perfectly fine and still carry sickness. Smell, texture, and taste became refined warning systems. Leftovers weren't a casual convenience. They were a calculated risk. Food prepared in the evening was often eaten again at dawn, not because it was guaranteed to be safe, but because there was no other choice. Reheating it helped, but it didn't erase the danger. And with every reheating, the food lost moisture, flavor, and nutrition. Because of this, families ate together as soon as the food was ready. Delay meant loss. There was no concept of saving a portion for later without consequences. Sickness from food was common and expected. Stomach pain, fever, and vomiting were a part of life. Over time, people learned which foods to avoid in the heat, which to reserve for winter. Fish was eaten close to the water. Meat from a large animal was shared quickly throughout the community. Children were trained early to recognize danger. They learned what smells meant to discard something, what textures meant to be cautious. These were not gentle lessons. Mistakes were punished by illness. Social habits formed around this risk. Sharing was safer than hoarding. A large meal, consumed quickly by many, reduced spoilage. Collective eating spread the risk across a community instead of concentrating it on one family. Psychologically, this created a constant tension. Hunger was never separate from vigilance. Satisfaction was brief. The body learned not to relax after a meal because comfort was temporary, followed by uncertainty. Every bite carried a calculation. People didn't expect food to last. They expected it to turn. They adapted by acting quickly, sharing broadly, and enduring discomfort. Living without refrigeration meant living inside the process of decay, not escaping it. It required constant attention, restraint, and an acceptance of loss. Food was never stable. Safety was temporary. Survival depended not on stopping spoilage, but on always staying one step ahead of it. And that constant, relentless pressure shaped how people ate, worked, and thought for centuries. Meals were not moments of rest. They were pauses in a continuous struggle against time. Before cold machines silenced decay, every kitchen was a front line, and every meal was won, not stored. Thanks for watching. Before refrigerators, food and time were inseparable. Every ingredient existed under constant pressure. Meat, fish, milk, and vegetables all began to change the moment they were harvested or slaughtered. Cooking wasn't about comfort or flavor. It was about control. It was a race against decay, a desperate attempt to slow it down just long enough to survive. People didn't cook when they wanted to. They cooked when conditions allowed it. Fire was the heart of every kitchen, but it was unreliable. Keeping it alive required constant fuel, attention, and time. Wood had to be gathered, dried, and carefully rationed. Smoke filled living spaces, clinging to walls, clothes, and lungs. The work of cooking was physically exhausting long before the first dish ever appeared. Fresh food was a fleeting state. Once an animal was killed, its meat had to be processed immediately. Any delay meant loss. Fish would start to spoil within hours. Milk soured almost instantly. Vegetables wilted, fermented, or rotted, all depending on the weather and where they were kept. Cooking began the very moment food entered the house, not as a choice, but as an emergency response. In this world, salt replaced cold. It was expensive, limited, and used with extreme care. Salting meat or fish drew out the moisture, slowing decay, but completely changing the texture and taste. Salted food was for survival, not pleasure. It lasted longer, but it demanded hours of soaking and preparation before it could be eaten again. Drying was another defense. Food was sliced thin and left out in the sun, wind, or over a fire. This removed water, but it also made food hard, brittle, and tough to chew. Rehydrating it took precious time and fuel. Dried food kept people alive through lean times, but it was a constant reminder of what they lacked. Smoke wasn't for flavor. It was for protection. Meat and fish were hung above fires, allowing a smoky coat to form, warding off insects and bacteria. The result was dark, dense food that carried the scent of fire for days. Hunger sharpened judgment. People learned to recognize smells, textures, and subtle changes that we would completely ignore today. A wrong decision could mean sickness or even death. This knowledge was passed down through direct experience, not written instructions. Mistakes were remembered because their consequences were severe. Food storage existed, but it was fragile. Cellars and pits slowed spoilage, but they couldn't prevent it. Rodents, insects, and damp air were constant threats. Stored food was checked daily, handled carefully, and never fully trusted. Meals were smaller, simpler, and often repetitive. Variety was a risk. Familiar foods were safer. Cooking favored methods that reduced uncertainty: boiling, drying, salting. Creativity was a luxury limited by danger. This constant, unrelenting pressure shaped daily life. It determined when people worked, rested, and gathered. Food demanded attention from the moment it entered the home until it was consumed. There was no pause, no cold silence slowing decay in the background, and the danger didn't end once the food was cooked. It only changed its form. A finished meal had a very narrow window of safety, sometimes just hours. In warm weather, a meal could turn dangerous before the next sunrise. People learned not to trust appearances. A dish could look perfectly fine and still carry sickness. Leftovers weren't casual, they were calculated risks. Food made in the evening was often eaten at dawn, not because it was safe, but because there was no other choice. Reheating a meal didn't guarantee protection. It just reduced the danger. With every reheat, the food lost moisture, flavor, and nutrients. But survival demanded it be reused. So families ate together as soon as the food was ready. Delay meant loss. There was no concept of saving a portion for later without a consequence. Eating late was dangerous. Eating alone was wasteful. Foodborne illness was common and simply expected. Stomach pain, fever, vomiting, these were part of life. Patterns were recognized. Certain foods were avoided in the summer. Fish was eaten close to the water. Meat was shared quickly among neighbors. Milk was transformed into cheese or yogurt immediately, or thrown away. Social habits formed around this risk. Sharing food was safer than hoarding it. A large meal, eaten quickly by many, reduced spoilage. Communities cooked together during a harvest or slaughter because individual storage was too unreliable. Collective eating spread the risk across many bodies instead of concentrating it on one. This created a constant psychological tension. Hunger was never separate from vigilance. Satisfaction was brief, yet always followed by uncertainty.